Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Cheryl Elston. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Sergeant Gordon William Hutton, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome one recruit training unit from the Royal Australian Air Force Base in Wagga Wagga, Wing Commander Bob Howe, retired, representing the Air Force Association, and delegates from the Learning Environments Australasia Conference. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Gordon William Hutton. Gordon Hutton was born on the 3rd of January 1917 in Liverpool, now part of Greater Western Sydney. Known as Peter, he was one of 5 children born to Sydney and Bessie Hutton. Peter grew up in the Illawarra region, where his father operated a meat company. He attended Winona Public School and later studied at Wollongong High School. He was a keen sportsman and enjoyed rugby league, tennis, cricket, swimming and riding. Peter found employment as a butcher in his father's business. When the Second World War broke out in 1939, he was living in Bulli and studying accountancy in Sydney. Like many young men, Peter was keen to join the ranks of the Royal Australian Air Force. He applied in 1940 and was accepted into the reserve to wait until there was more space in training courses. Later that year, he was called up for service, joining the Royal Australian Air Force on the 11th of November 1940. He undertook a short period of training in Australia before embarking for Canada for further training at the end of April 1941. Hutton arrived in Vancouver in mid-May and travelled to the Royal Canadian Air Force Station at Yorkton in the province of Saskatchewan. There he undertook further training alongside other new recruits, learning to fly aircraft such as the Harvard and the Tiger Moth biplane. Receiving his flying badge on the 23rd of July 1941, he embarked from Canada on the 9th of August, bound for active overseas service. As part of the Empire training scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who throughout the course of the war joined Royal Air Force Squadron or Australian squadrons based in Britain. On his arrival in England, Hutton joined the No. 61 Operational Training Unit, which was based out of Heston Aerodrome, west of London. He continued training, learning to fly single-seat fighters, including Hawker Hurricanes and Supermarine Spitfires. In October 1941, Hutton moved to the town of Catterick, North Yorkshire, where he joined his first operational unit, No. 122 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. The squadron was equipped with Spitfires and was predominantly involved in patrols and escorts over Scotland. Soon after Hutton joined his new unit, the squadron moved to a base in the town of Scorton in Lancashire. It is from here that he undertook his first operational flights and training exercises with his squadron. On the 5th of December 1941, Hutton took off from the squadron's base alongside one other aircraft for a flight to the town of Thornaby. Given the unpredictable weather, the section leader, Pilot Officer Robert Hardy, was under instruction to return to base if the weather conditions did not allow for a safe landing at their destination. During the flight, Hutton and Hardy encountered thick cloud coming from the coast, which hampered visibility. Hardy made the decision to turn back to base, and in doing so, lost sight of Hutton, who had last been seen experiencing difficulties flying and staying on course in the cloudy conditions. Ground control attempted to make contact with Hutton, but was unable to do so, and Hardy returned to base alone. Shortly after, a search party sent to locate Hutton found his aircraft. It had crashed into the hillside and disintegrated at a nearby farm. He did not survive the crash. Owing to the extensive damage to Hutton's Spitfire, it was impossible for further investigations to determine if there had been mechanical cause for the accident. The squadron leader concluded the crash was most likely the result of Hutton's inexperience and the heavy cloud cover over the intended route. 4 days after the crash, Hutton was buried near the squadron's base at Catterick in the local cemetery. He was 24 years old. Peter Hutton's name is listed on the roll of honour on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Gordon William Hutton, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.